Welcome to welcome to your deep dive. This time it's all about intimacy and desire.
Yeah.
You wanted to explore eyes open sex
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
let me tell you,
Uh-huh.
this source material is something else.
Ah.
We're diving into some, pretty intense concepts like
Yeah.
Vulcan mind meld orgasms.
Uh,
Yep,
uh,
straight out of Star Trek.
wow.
And a term I'm almost afraid to say out loud.
Oh, really?
Effing.
But
But don't worry, we'll unpack all that
uh-huh.
in a way that makes
It's
sense.
fascinating how this source uses such bold language to really dig into the complexities of human connection, you know?
Right.
It's definitely a fresh perspective on intimacy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with these eyes open orgasms. The source mentions that they're statistically rare,
Uh-huh.
with only like 13% of people reporting experiencing them. And then there's this wild description
Okay.
of it feeling like a Vulcan mind meld. I mean, what does that even mean? Like in a real world context?
Right. Well, the source is highlighting the importance of intense partner engagement
Right.
and emotional transparency during climax.
Uh-huh.
It's not just about the physical sensation,
Right.
but it's about being fully present with your partner,
Mm.
both physically and emotionally,
Okay.
and feeling their presence enhance your experience.
Mm.
It suggests a level of connection where you're so in tune with each other
Right.
that it creates a deeper, more meaningful orgasm.
So it's not just about like seeing your partner, it's
Yeah.
about
It's about being seen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
feeling truly seen and understood in that moment.
Exactly. It suggests a level of vulnerability and trust
Right.
that allows for a truly shared experience.
That makes me wonder, have you ever felt that kind of intense connection during intimacy?
Oh,
It's definitely something to think about. What does it say about the relationship dynamic when partners are that in tune with each other?
it raises an important question about the role of vulnerability and trust in intimacy. Can you really achieve that level of connection without both partners feeling safe,
Yeah.
secure enough to completely let go?
Right. And speaking of letting go, we have to address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Or maybe the F-bomb in the bedroom.
Yeah.
The source uses this term, and I'm quoting directly here,
Okay.
to describe a specific type of sexual experience.
Wow.
I have to admit, it was a bit jarring to read at first.
It's definitely provocative language,
Yeah.
but the source uses it to describe a state of complete surrender
Okay.
and transcendence during sex. It's
Right.
not just about physical pleasure.
Right.
It's about aiming for a deeper connection with your partner. Almost a spiritual merging.
Okay, so maybe it's not just about the shock value of the word.
Right.
There's actually a deeper concept being explored here.
Exactly. The source talks about aiming for her mind,
Oh.
creating a co-constructed, multi-dimensional moment of meeting. Essentially, it's about building a shared experience where both partners are fully present, mentally and physically, and connecting on a profound level.
So it's more nuanced than just aggression or dominance.
Yes.
It's about passion, vulnerability, and connecting on a mental and emotional level as well.
Exactly. The source argues that many couples are missing out on this kind of connection because they're focusing too much on the mechanics of sex
Mm.
rather than exploring the deeper potential for intimacy.
That's interesting. It makes you rethink the whole idea of what it means to be truly intimate.
Right.
And you know what else the source seems to emphasize?
What's that?
Oral sex.
Okay.
And I mean, they really go there.
That's right. The source dedicates a lot of attention to oral sex, suggesting it can be a powerful tool for building intimacy and connection.
Yeah, like a surprising amount. It's almost like it's their main point. Why do you think that is?
They argue that oral sex promotes collaboration, equality and vulnerability between partners.
Okay.
There's less pressure to perform,
Right.
and it allows for a more focused and attentive experience,
Mm-hmm.
which can lead to deeper connection.
Okay, that makes sense. But they also talk about some pretty out there ideas,
Like what?
like how oral sex can help reorganize the future in their minds. What does that even mean?
It's a fascinating concept.
Hmm.
The source suggests that the heightened sensory experience of oral sex
Right.
can trigger powerful memories and emotions.
Okay.
By revisiting those experiences in a safe and intimate setting with your partner, you can potentially gain new insights and reframe past traumas.
So it's like by focusing on the sensations of the present moment, you can actually unlock
Yes, good.
deeper parts of yourself in your past. And,
Yeah.
and that can somehow help you move forward with a clearer perspective.
Exactly. It's about the transformative power of intimacy and how it can help us heal and grow both individually and as a couple.
That's a really interesting perspective. And speaking of growth, the source makes this bold statement that emotionally committed relationships are people growing machines. It's like they believe even the tough stuff, the arguments, the frustrations are all part of a larger process of evolution.
That's a key idea the source emphasizes.
Right.
They argue that relationships, even with their challenges, can be catalysts for profound personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that we can learn and evolve through our interactions with our partners.
So it's not about avoiding conflict or pretending everything is perfect. It's about learning to navigate those challenges in a way that strengthens the connection
Yes.
and allows both partners to grow.
Exactly. And the source provides a framework for navigating these challenges
Okay.
with a concept they call the 4 points of balance.
4 points of balance. That sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
What exactly are those, and how do they connect to everything else we've been talking about?
The 4 points of balance are essentially qualities or skills that the source suggests are essential for a healthy and fulfilling relationship. They call them solid, flexible self, quiet mind, golden heart, grounded responding, and meaning-filled endurance.
Okay, those names are definitely unique.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about each one. Let's start with solid, flexible self. What exactly does that mean?
Imagine a tree that can bend with the wind but doesn't break.
Okay.
That's what solid, flexible self is all about. It's about having a strong sense of self, knowing your values and boundaries,
Right.
but also being open to new experiences and your partner's perspective.
Okay.
You're solid in who you are, but flexible enough to adapt to the changing dynamics of the relationship.
So it's about finding that balance between staying true to yourself and being open to growth and change.
Exactly. And that flexibility is crucial for navigating the inevitable challenges that arise in any relationship.
Okay, that makes sense. What about quiet mind, golden heart? It sounds a little, well, mystical.
It does have a poetic ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's actually a very practical concept.
Sure.
Quiet mind is about emotional regulation, being able to calm your own anxieties and not get swept away by emotional storms. Think of it as creating a space of calm within yourself. And golden heart is about cultivating compassion and understanding, both for yourself and your partner.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where you're not letting your emotions run wild, but you're also not shutting down or becoming emotionally distant.
Yeah,
It's about being present with your feelings without being overwhelmed by them.
precisely. It's about balancing emotional awareness with emotional control, which allows you to respond to your partner with empathy and understanding.
All right, so we've got solid, flexible self and quiet mind, golden heart. What about grounded responding? What does that even mean in a relationship context?
Grounded responding is all about staying present and connected,
Okay.
even during conflict.
Right.
It's about responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively.
Okay.
Imagine someone says something that triggers you.
Hmm.
Instead of firing back a defensive remark,
Right.
you take a breath, you pause, and you consider your response.
So it's like that old saying, respond, don't react, but with a little more emphasis on staying grounded in yourself.
Exactly. Grounded responding helps you stay rooted in your values and intentions, even when things get heated. You're less likely to say or do something you'll regret later.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about how easy it is to get caught up in the heat of the moment and say things you don't really mean. Okay, last but not least, we have meaning-filled endurance. What's that all about?
Relationships require effort, especially when you're committed to growth. Meaning-filled endurance is about having the stamina to stick with it, even when things are difficult or uncomfortable. It's about recognizing that the most meaningful relationships often require us to dig deep and put in the work. It's about understanding that challenges are inevitable, but they don't have to break you.
So it's not about giving up at the first sign of trouble. It's about having the courage and commitment to see things through, even when it's hard.
Exactly. It's about having faith in the relationship and believing that the challenges you face together can ultimately make the bond stronger.
This whole 4 points of balance framework is really fascinating. It gives you a concrete way to think about how to approach challenges and build a stronger relationship. But how does it connect back to these ideas of eyes open sex and bing?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Imagine you're trying to cultivate that level of surrender and connection that the source describes with imming.
Okay.
Having a solid, flexible self allows you to be vulnerable and open to the experience
Right.
while staying grounded in who you are. Quiet mind, golden heart. helps you stay present and emotionally connected, even during intense moments. Grounded responding allows for clear communication and a deeper understanding of each other's needs and desires.
Mm-hmm.
And meaning-filled endurance helps you work through any challenges or insecurities that might arise along the way.
So those 4 points are like the foundation for building that kind of intense, transformative intimacy.
Exactly. They create a framework for a relationship where both partners feel safe, seen, and supported.
Right.
And that's where the real magic can happen.
All this talk about vulnerability and connection makes me think about the source's emphasis on choosing the right therapist. They seem to believe that therapy can play a key role in navigating these complex dynamics.
Absolutely. The source specifically recommends finding a therapist who embodies qualities like differentiation, respect without complete comfort, and productive discomfort.
Okay. Break that down for me.
I'm with you.
What exactly do those qualities mean, and why are they so important in a therapist?
Differentiation means the therapist has done their own work
Okay.
and is able to hold on to their own sense of self, even when dealing with intense emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They won't get swept up in your drama or try to fix you. They'll provide a steady, grounded presence.
So it's about finding a therapist who is emotionally stable and self-aware.
Exactly. And then there's respect without complete comfort. This means the therapist will challenge you to grow, even if it makes you uncomfortable. They won't just tell you what you want to hear. They'll push you to confront those parts of yourself that might be holding you back.
So it's not about finding a therapist who just makes you feel good all the time. It's about finding someone who will push you to be your best self,
Yes.
even if it's a little painful at times.
Exactly. It's about having a therapist who believes in your capacity for growth and will support you in that journey.
And then there's productive discomfort. What does that mean?
It's the idea that growth often requires us to step outside our comfort zones. A therapist who embodies productive discomfort will create a space where you can explore your vulnerabilities and challenge your limiting beliefs, even if it feels a little scary or uncomfortable.
So it's about finding a therapist who can help you lean into the discomfort and use it as a catalyst for growth.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that discomfort can be a sign that you're on the right track, that you're pushing yourself to evolve and become a more authentic version of yourself.
That's a really powerful perspective. It makes you realize that finding the right therapist can be a crucial part of this journey of self-discovery and growth.
Absolutely. A skilled therapist can help you navigate those challenges in a safe and supportive environment, providing guidance and insight as you work towards creating a more fulfilling and authentic life, both individually and in your relationships.
It's interesting. The source also talks about how societal norms and cultural influences can have a huge impact on our understanding of desire and intimacy.
That's right. They argue that many of the sexual norms we take for granted are actually products of specific cultural and historical contexts.
Okay.
For example, they talk about how the rise of agriculture led to changes in gender roles and sexual expectations.
So it's like our sexual desires aren't just hardwired into our brains. They're also shaped by the societies we live in. Our understanding of what's considered normal or natural is constantly evolving.
Exactly. The Force uses the example of how the shift from hunter-gatherer societies to agricultural societies led to a greater emphasis on property ownership and inheritance, which in turn led to a more restrictive view of female sexuality.
It's like suddenly women's bodies became seen as valuable commodities, something to be controlled and protected rather than celebrated for their own inherent worth and pleasure.
Precisely. And it's just one example of how cultural and historical forces have influenced our understanding of sexuality. The source also talks about the role of religion, morality, and even fashion in shaping our desires and behaviors.
It's fascinating to think about how these external factors can have such a profound impact on our internal experiences. It makes you realize that what we consider normal or natural is often just a product of our own cultural conditioning. And and that opens up a whole new way of thinking about our own desires and expectations. It makes you wonder if maybe there's no one right way to experience sexuality. Maybe it's all about finding what works for you and your partner as long as it's consensual and respectful, of course.
The source seems to agree with that perspective.
Okay.
They encourage exploration and challenging those societal norms to discover what truly resonates with you and your partner.
So it's about giving ourselves permission to define intimacy and desire on our own terms.
Exactly. It's about breaking free from those expectations and embracing our own unique path.
Right.
And that brings us back to something we touched on earlier, the Vulcan mind meld orgasms.
Oh, yeah. The whole Star Trek thing,
Yep.
I have to admit, I'm still a little fuzzy on what that actually means in practice.
It's a powerful metaphor.
Right.
The source uses it to describe a specific kind of shared experience during climax, where individual boundaries seem to dissolve and there's a sense of unity and oneness. It's not just about the physical sensations, it's about a profound level of emotional and spiritual connection.
So you're not just having an orgasm, you're merging with your partner on some deeper level. Honestly, it sounds a little intimidating.
It can be an intense experience, and the source acknowledges that.
Right.
They emphasize the importance of trust and vulnerability
Okay.
and the need for both partners to feel safe and secure in order to fully surrender to that kind of connection.
So this Vulcan mind meld orgasm isn't something you just stumble into.
Right.
It requires a lot of trust, communication, and emotional maturity.
Absolutely. It's about consciously choosing to be vulnerable with your partner
Mm-hmm.
and allowing yourself to be fully seen and known by them. It's about creating a space where both of you feel safe enough to let go of your inhibitions and truly merge both physically and emotionally.
That makes me think about all those things we talked about earlier. The 4 points of balance, finding the right therapist, even challenging societal norms. It all seems to be connected in some way.
You're right. It all ties together.
Yeah.
Those 4 points of balance, the solid, flexible self, the quiet mind, golden heart, grounded responding, and meaning-filled endurance, create the foundation for the kind of deep, trusting connection that allows for those transformative experiences.
So it's not just about reading a book or listening to a podcast and saying, okay, I'm going to have a Vulcan mind meld orgasm now.
Right.
It's about building a relationship where that kind of connection becomes possible.
Exactly. It's about cultivating those qualities within yourself and the relationship so that those moments of profound connection can emerge organically.
Right.
And if you're struggling with that, finding the right therapist can be incredibly helpful. They can provide guidance and support as you navigate those challenges and work towards building a more fulfilling and authentic relationship.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from eyes open sex and effing to the 4 points of balance and the role of therapy in navigating intimacy and desire. So what does all this mean for you, the listener? What will you take away from this exploration?
The source material challenges us to think differently about intimacy and desire. It encourages us to question those societal norms and explore what truly resonates with us.
It's about being intentional and making conscious choices about how we want to experience intimacy in our relationships. It's about cultivating those qualities of self-awareness, vulnerability, and emotional maturity that allow for deeper connection.
And it's about recognizing that growth and transformation are ongoing processes. It's about embracing the challenges and opportunities that come our way and using them to build stronger, more fulfilling relationships.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we encourage you to reflect on what you've heard today.
Yeah.
What resonated with you? What sparked your curiosity? What are you inspired to explore further in your own life and relationships?
Remember, there's no one right way to experience intimacy and desire. It's about finding what works for you and your partner and creating a space where you can both feel safe, seen, and deeply connected.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and are feeling inspired to create more fulfilling and authentic relationships in your own life.